She got everything you wanted, then lost it all. You dream of the freedom, the validation, the power, the envy in others' eyes when they look at someone who has made it. But what if I told you there's a brutal, hidden truth behind that dream, and that someone already lived it for you, all the way to the bottom? Subscribe now, because this story isn't just hers. It's a mirror for your own ambitions, your fears, your fragile illusion of control. She had the perfect life, the apartment with the skyline view, the six-figure deals rolling in like clockwork, people hanging on her every word, her name whispered in rooms she hadn't even entered yet. But beneath the curated glow of social approval, she was already sinking into a quiet, stoic nightmare. Marcus Aurelius once warned that what we love will one day be taken from us, and she laughed at that idea, as most do, until the universe stopped laughing with her. First, the deals slowed, then vanished. Her inbox, once overflowing, went silent. The dopamine highs of praise, retweets, claps, and likes dried up like a well abandoned by the gods. A slow death, not of her body, but of her identity. You chase her dream every day, ignoring Seneca's warning that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But for her, the suffering became real precisely because she was never trained for it. She never learned the art of loss. She believed success was the reward, not the test. No one told her that the real examination comes when the applause fades and you're left in a room with just your breath, your thoughts, and the question, what am I without what I built? The ancient Stoics didn't just prepare for war, they prepared for this exact fall. They practiced premeditatio malorum, visualizing disaster not as pessimism, but as armor. She never imagined losing the things that made her feel alive, and so when they crumbled, she didn't have armor, just panic. The irony is, she had once posted quotes from Epictetus, called herself resilient, wore mindset like a badge, but never understood the core truth he screamed into time. You don't control what happens, only how you respond. When her partner left, when the money ran out, when her name was no longer currency but a cautionary tale, she responded like most do. Anger, blame, despair, then silence. This is where you might say, that won't be me. But the Stoics would smirk at your confidence. They'd ask, have you rehearsed losing everything? Not in theory, not in a tweet. But have you sat with it, breathed into it, stripped your ego naked and asked it to survive without praise, without comfort, without being seen? She didn't. She avoided discomfort like a virus, wrapped herself in routines that reinforced her superiority, believing that good fortune meant good character. But fortune, the Stoics warned, is a whore, flattering, then vanishing. Fortuna's will turns for no one. And when it turned on her, she learned something shocking. None of her success had made her stronger. It had only distracted her from how hollow she'd become. Do you see it now? The danger isn't failure. It's getting everything you want without learning how to lose it. Because you will. You will lose something. A person, a title, a dream, a version of yourself you swore was eternal. And the only question that matters is whether you'll crumble or rise. Stoicism doesn't promise you peace. It offers you the tools to endure chaos without breaking. When she finally hit bottom, something even more terrifying happened. No one noticed. The world moved on. Her followers migrated to shinier influencers. Her messages were left unread. This was her moment of awakening or madness. And in that void, something strange occurred. Not a comeback, not a redemption arc, but silence. And from that silence, a different voice, her own, not shaped by the crowd. She began to reread the Stoics, not as performance, but as survival. Meditations became a lifeline, not a flex. She practiced gratitude in scarcity. She started each day not with goals, but with acceptance. This might be the day everything fails again. And I will still be me. Imagine that. Living without flinching. Having nothing and still choosing to act with virtue, as if the world were watching, even when it isn't. That's the secret she never knew while she was rising. True power isn't found in what you gain, but in what you can lose without losing yourself. Think about what you fear most right now. Public failure? Rejection? Poverty? Loneliness? The Stoics would tell you to go there. Don't run. Sit with the monster under your bed. Invite it to tea. Because once you've rehearsed ruin, you stop being hostage to hope. You start living. She used to think happiness was the peak of the mountain, but she learned, too late, that peace is being willing to fall. And fall again. And climb anyway. So now the question turns back to you. How much of your life is built on illusions you can't bear to lose? Because if you're not training to lose them, you're not living with strength, you're living on borrowed time. And time, as you secretly know but pretend to forget, is running out. You scroll, you chase, you build castles from attention, and deep down there's a voice whispering, what if it all disappeared tomorrow? That voice isn't paranoia. It's warning. It's your soul trying to prepare you for the collapse you've been trained to ignore. She ignored it. She thought she could outwork fate, out-hustle heartbreak, outrun the collapse. But when everything vanished, her wealth, her beauty, her audience, she discovered something more horrifying than loss. She had no identity outside of what others reflected back to her. The Stoics knew this trap. They called it externals, things you can't control, things that never really belong to you. You think your talent, your following, your confidence, even your joy are yours. But what if they're just shadows of convenience, easily stolen by one twist of fate? Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. She had never practiced that. So when the world stopped clapping, she didn't just feel invisible, she felt erased. The applause had become her oxygen. You may scoff, say I'm different, but unless you've trained like a Stoic, you're vulnerable in the same way. You're building your ego on rented ground. And rent is due. She spent months in obscurity. No announcements, no teary videos, no grand exit. Just silence. And in that silence, she finally confronted what she had spent her whole success avoiding, herself. Not the curated self, not the professional mask, but the raw, trembling creature underneath. And here's where things changed, not magically, not with a comeback montage, but slowly, painfully, honestly. She started rebuilding, but this time with no outcome in mind. Just discipline. Just virtue. The Stoic triad, wisdom, courage, justice, became her compass, not her caption. She stopped seeking validation and began seeking alignment. She asked, what would I do if no one ever noticed again? And that question became her salvation. Because in the absence of praise, she discovered character. When she had nothing to gain, she started doing what mattered. Not to be seen, not to rise, but because it was right. That's what the Stoics meant when they said to live according to nature. Not trees and sunlight, but human nature, your highest self, stripped of ego and soaked in purpose. When she looked back, it wasn't the fall that had broken her. It was the illusion that she could ever be safe from falling. And that's your reality too. You think you'll be ready when the moment comes, but readiness isn't a mood, it's a method. You prepare now. You stop pretending you're bulletproof. You admit the truth. You are fragile, emotional, prideful, and deeply afraid of losing what you love. But once you name that, once you sit with it, once you rehearse death like the Stoics did, then you become dangerous. Untouchable not because nothing can hurt you, but because you're ready for anything to hurt you and still choose to live with virtue. That's what she does now. No comeback, no fame. Just life. Quiet, strong, deliberate. She gets up early, not to grind, but to be grateful. She writes, not for the algorithm, but to sharpen her soul. She earns less now, but she feels richer. Because her peace isn't based on performance. It's based on preparation. Every day she asks, what can be taken from me today? And she answers, everything. And yet she stands. She is proof that losing everything can be the beginning of freedom. And now you face the same crossroads. Will you keep chasing illusions that can vanish in a second? Or will you train your soul, strip away the false gold, and live a life that can survive the fall? The Stoics didn't leave behind self-help. They left behind a sword, forged in fire, meant to cut through delusion. The question is, will you pick it up? Or will you wait until life rips it from the hands of someone else and drops it at your feet? Because whether you like it or not, the collapse is coming. It always does. And when it does, you'll either be the one who breaks or the one who was built for it. So ask yourself now, before the silence arrives, before the fall, Have you practiced enough to live without applause? To walk alone? To be enough without being admired? If the answer is no, then your work begins. Not tomorrow, not next month, but now. Subscribe, for what's coming next won't be easy, but it will be real.